Why so many people are unhappy in retirement? Written by Arthur C. Brooks. This is Dateline May 7, 2020, but I've been keeping it in my open browser tab for months so I could read it. Arthur C. Brooks, you may or may not remember him, but he used to be at AEI. I didn't realize he had left. As of July 2019, he joined the faculty of Harvard Kennedy School. Oh, God. I tell you, man. Yeah, he's a center-right independent libertarian. I guarantee he's an anti-Trumpster. And I like Arthur. I mean, I like his readings. I like this article. But, when you're joining the Harvard Kennedy School, look, man, we need more conservative people in academia. I get it, but it just frustrates me to win. If sometimes you sit there and you're like, oh, are people thrown in with the people who are dooming us? I don't know. I don't know. What do you gotta join the academy to take it over, I guess. But all right, let's read this. Pretty good article, nonetheless. There is a script to life that most of us have internalized, whether consciously or not. It's in that many of our most beloved fictional stories, it looks like the lives of successful people tend to follow it as well. It's called the hero's journey. The 19th century anthropologist Edward Burnett Tyler was the first to identify the hero's journey. And he showed many great adventure stories throughout history follow the basic formula, from King David to Star Wars. You can think of it as having three parts. The first is the call to adventure, where the hero to be is stimulated to act in some bold way, fighting Goliath, for instance, or the Empire. The second is the ordeal, in which the hero is brutally tested and has to beat long odds, which is what conservatives are going to be dealing with for the next 2 years, if not 4. And then, such as vanquishing a giant, the tech censorship and the state with the oligarchs. That's what we're all up against right now. The third is the victory, where the hero, the good guys, us, wins against these odds and returns home triumphant. We basically open up the freedom in America because it's going to be under assault. Well, it is under assault big time right now. And we come back, we say, "Ooh, it looks bad," but it's always darkest before the dawn, and then the dawn settles in, and we're like, yeah. It's kind of like the song by Rush, "Caress of Steel." The Necromancer. You should read the lyrics. Fantastic. Actually, maybe we should read the lyrics real quick. 1975 September, the song was produced, the third studio recording of Rush, with their Neil Peart was had just joined the band, but this is with their new drummer, because their old drummer, I can't remember what happened to him. Anyway, let's read some of these. Silent shroud the forest, as the birds announce the dawn. 3 travelers for the river and southward journey on. So you see the hero's journey. Brooding in the tower, watching over his land, holding every creature, hopelessly they stand. Gaze into his prisms, knowing they are near. Lead him to the dungeon, specters numb with fear. They bow defeated. Oh, man. So look, it's literally, you got the heroes into the darkness, the adventure, under the shadow. It looks bad. They bow defeated. And then you got the return of the prince. Stealthily attacking by Tor slays his foe. The men are free to run now from labyrinths below. The wrath of the necromancer shadows through the sky. Another land to darken with evil prism's eye. So basically, enter the champion. So this is actually the words that they're not singing. They're actually speaking. Enter the champion. Prince by Tor appears to battle for freedom from chains long years. The spell has been broken. The dark lands are bright. The wraith of the necromancer soars away in the night. And talk about a hero's journey. It's a nice narrative, especially if you've worked hard and done pretty well in life. The problem is the real life ending after the triumphant return. Exactly. So what happens to Baitor and his group of freemen? Now they get fat, lazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, it's no different than what happened in the Lord of the Rings. A lot of people don't recognize this, so they just saw the movie, not read the book. But the what's his name? Not Sauron, the other white wizard, Saruman. Saruman comes to the Shire. And when Frodo and the boys come back, Saruman is taken over like a communist insurrection. It's crazy, man. It's kind of funny. I didn't realize I was going off on this little tangent as I did this video. Kind of funny. There's no Star Wars sequel like in Luke Skywalker, like where Luke Skywalker hangs around the house all day yelling because someone touched the thermostat, or telling his grandkids about the blowing up the Death Star for the 1,000th time. Of course, some people enjoy retirement, but since I've been writing about happiness later in life, many people who were successful earlier in life have reached out to me to say retirement has been brutal. They feel unhappily, aimless, and bored, in search of, well, not quite sure what, and some have made bad choices, tanking their marriages, leading to what social scientists call the gray divorce, which doubled in the last 25 years. Remember, when they say 50% of all marriages end in divorce, well, that's misleading, because once you divorce, you're more likely to divorce again. So basically, how many first-time marriages end in divorce? It's not 50%. So what happens is you got people married 3 or 4 times. So Charlotte and I have been married once. You've been married 4 times. So that's 5 marriages, of which 4 have been ended in divorce, if that makes sense. But that's you, really, not me. So it's very misleading. One person told me, since I quit working, I feel like a stranger to myself. I'm telling you right now, I agree. The hero's journey is great when you're in the middle of it. The trouble comes when your strength starts to wane because now you're off script. People rarely change the story they've constructed for their lives. They rage instead, trying to pound their lives back into the storyline, often with sad results. Get off my lawn! Or they watch Fox News or MSNBC, which is all part of the same statist networks now anyway, but still... They'll say, I get my sense of being through politics, for instance, or I get my sense of being through college football players. Sad. But this rage is born from a misunderstanding of the hero's journey. Defining it in terms of 3 phases makes the kind of mistake of leaving out one last critical phase. The literary scholar Joseph Campbell, author of the book The Hero with 1,000 Faces, notes that the great many myths involves a subtle twist after the triumph in the battle. He calls it the crossing of the return threshold. The returning hero, to complete his adventure, must survive the impact of the world. The first problem of the returning hero is to accept as real, after an experience of soul-satisfying vision of fulfillment, the passing joys and sorrows, banalities and noisy obscenities of life. In other words, the end of the true hero's journey is coming home and finding a battle to be waged, not with an external enemy, but with one's own demons. Consider the case of King David. He kills the lion, beats Goliath, he vanquishes Israel's foes, and unites the 12 tribes, from shepherd boy to supreme ruler. But the story doesn't stop there. It continues in the 2nd book of Samuel. If you haven't read it, this is where he sends Uriah to battle because he impregnated Uriah's wife Bathsheba, and then Uriah dies. It's the whole thing's not. You got to read the 2nd book of Samuel. It's actually an easy read. I'm telling you, those older people, some of the Older Testament stories are easy to read. Deuteronomy is tough. Numbers tough, but some of Samuel easy. Ancient Israel's greatest leader, a man of impeccable valor and discipline, comes home from triumph and then falls prey to his petty lust. Heroism turns villainous, Roth, not from anything on the battlefield, but precisely because of banalities and noisy obscenities of life. In failing to live an ordinary life, David failed in the last hardest phase of the journey, being the master of himself. On a much smaller scale, successful people sometimes behave more or less like David, hurting others and ruining their well-earned reputations later in life by giving to the vanity, desires, and insecurities. I'm talking about a CEO who, in the face of deteriorating performance, won't turn over control of the company. Ravi Zacharias. Love the man. He's, R.I.P., a freaking brilliant man. He's brought many, many, many people to God. In his later years, it turns out he had some peccadillos, and it's sad. And I'm sure that will be used against Christians, because Christians always claim we're without sin. No. Christians are the biggest sinners. We just happen to admit it. But Ravi, engaged in some inappropriate activity. I mean, with adults, nothing, but still. That's sad, but at the end of the day, you wonder, was his mind all there, or basically he's maybe just bored? I don't know, but he'd been doing the same thing for hundreds of years, it seems, and just brought so many people to Christ. But believe it or not, he makes mistakes, as do you, certainly as does this guy. Trust me. Though few lives will take the straightforward path of the hero's journey, that doesn't mean it's not a useful framework for thinking about your goals. First, have a dream and go for it. Second, remember that reaching your goals is going to hurt if they're worth anything. You will suffer in your quest. Lean into the sacrifice. Oh, I hate that term, lean in. It's like, do better, lean in. If you achieve your goals, savor your victory. But don't forget part 4, the personal crucible. Unless you keel over them in the prime of life, your victories will fade, your skills decline, and life's problems will intrude. If you try to hang on to glory or lash out when it fades, it will squander your victories and mark you unhappy to the end. If you're still in the middle of your hero's journey, it would behoove you to make a tangible plan now to show true strength and character in the final phase. Plan to spend the last part of your life serving others, loving family and friends, and being a good example to those in the first 3 stages of a hero's journey. Happiness in retirement depends on your choice of narrative. I actually, I 100% agree, man. I'll never forget when I first started at First Union Bank. We had moved from Arizona, and we had no money, man. They had 1 kid, no money. We're living in Shenandoah Valley in some crappy old rental house. And I was working as a platform rep at the bank. I felt like I was like, man, I can't believe this is where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't that good in terms of, put products. Like, there's a guy next to me who's making bank, and I was like, because I don't know, let's just put it this way. I said, I can't do like that guy in terms of the sales strategy. I can't. And I was struggling. I'm not gonna lie. And long story short, I'll never forget. I had these guys come in, a husband and wife. They're probably, maybe 55 back then, maybe 50, 55, and they had, $300,000 in an investment account. And if that was a lot of money, I mean, that's, 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago, $300,000 is worth a lot more than $300,000 is now. And they had very little debt, like 40,000 in home equity line of credit. That was it. And we're talking. I said, man, we just got to chat. You know what I'm saying? And I said, I'm struggling financially. I didn't say it quite like this. They said, oh, we were there, man. We were there. We know what it's like. You just got to keep plugging. And then you're going to wake up and you're going to have little to no debt and you have a decent portfolio. And he said, you just got to keep plugging. He didn't say it's a hero's journey, but I'll never forget the husband and wife. They both said, no, we know. I think they might have 3 kids. I think she stayed home to raise the kids. And he says, you sacrifice a lot, but then you will come out on the other side. Most likely better off for it, for sure. Just keep fighting. And that was kind of like, if I'll never forget, his first name was Larry. I remember that, but I can't remember the last name. But anyway, long story short, I'll never forget that. And that guy, it stuck with me all these many years later. And not that it was anything profound, but it's just like, no, we've been there. But keep fighting. And then you'll wake up one day, most likely, with 40,000 in equity line, $400,000 equity in your home, and a $350,000 portfolio, or whatever it was. And you'll feel you've beaten the cold that's at the front door that's coming to rob you, from safety and security of being financially destitute. What I'm saying? It's going to put you financially destitute. He goes, and then one day you wake up, and then there's other problems you contend with, and it's just as funny, man. So that was like the hero's journey for me. Is like, listen, this guy say, no, you're entering into it, or you're in it right now by hook or by crook, and now you got to work your way out of it. And then they were very active in the church, a very religious community is the Shenandoah Valley. And I just remember they got a lot of a feeding of the soul by partaking in various mission trips and stuff. So anyway, don't let that be you. We're just watching the news all the time. I'm just telling you. In fact, I would argue, I'll do another video on what we should do to retain sanity. All right, thanks. Love to hear your comments.